kids, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing video 3 in the How to Write Like an Actor series, and this one is going to be about how to make your readers feel something. As writers, we always want our readers to feel something, care for our characters, care about the circumstance, and root for our main characters. I'm going to be talking about what you as the writer can do to ensure that your readers feel something when reading your novel. From an actor's point of view, the way to make the audience feel something is if you yourself feel something. This can be applied to writing a novel. If you as the writer feel an emotion while you are writing, then your readers are likely to feel that same emotion while they're reading that particular scene. There are a couple different ways you can do this. If you take the actor's approach, there are 2 different types of actors. There's actually 3. There are method actors, there are Meisner actors, and then there are kind of the in-between actors. A method actor, you may have heard the term before, is an actor who literally steps into a character's shoes for an extended period of time before they go to film. Daniel Day-Lewis is a great example of a method actor. Daniel Day-Lewis only does a few projects a year, the reason being that he spends 2 years getting into character, and then after the film is wrapped, he spends an entire year getting out of character. While he was filming Lincoln, he was known to walk around town in full Abraham Lincoln getup to diners to have, breakfast, to the store to grab, waffles or something. Why would you grab waffles at a store if you were just at a diner? Anyway, you get the point. The Meisner actor implements a technique called the Meisner technique, and it's a technique that was developed by Sanford Meisner, who was an acting coach. And a lot of times I have heard people kind of equate it to the Stella Adler technique. And pretty much the theory behind this technique is living truthfully through imaginary circumstances. He believed that an actor could separate themselves from their character and just step into the role at the drop of a hat and then come out of the role at the drop of a hat. And the way that he theorized that actors could do this is if they lived truthfully in the moment, in imaginary circumstances. Basically treat it like a real life event. You have just stepped into the situation and now you have to react to it. Jack Nicholson is a great example of an actor who uses the Meisner technique in his acting. So just to circle back, how do we implement this into our writing? Here's how I did it. So in my novel, The Eldest Witch, one of my main characters, Ashley, is beginning to question her sexuality. She's discovering these feelings that are coming up for her that she's never really had before, and she's kind of trying to figure that out. She doesn't really have anyone to talk to about them because, she's kind of unsure about them herself, and she doesn't know if they're genuine feelings. She doesn't know if maybe it's just kind of a girl crush kind of thing or what. Now, I happen to be bisexual myself, so when I'm writing through Ashley's point of view, especially if her love interest is in the scene as well, I try to recall how I felt when I was first discovering all of this about myself. I try to recall the emotions that I went through, the confusion. It is a very real struggle that every LGBT individual goes through when they're first discovering their sexuality. So when I'm writing through Ashley's point of view, by allowing myself as the author to feel those emotions that I felt during that period of my life, then that shines through in the way that I'm writing Ashley's point of view. Essentially, making your readers feel something is about opening yourself up to feel something yourself as the author. So let's say you're writing a very emotional scene. Let's say it's a breakup scene. If you as the author physically feel every emotion that you can recall after a really hard breakup, and let's say by the end of that scene, you find yourself crying, I can almost guarantee you that when your readers read that exact same scene, they might cry. I have had people tell me that about certain scenes that I've written many times. I cried during this scene, oh my gosh. And every time it's been a scene that when I was writing it, I cried. The same goes with every other emotion: joy, love, anger. I mean, it's literally you're just opening yourself up to feel what these people are feeling so that the emotions are coming from someplace real. A great way that you can learn to do this is take an acting class. Wait, Amanda, do what? I'm an introvert, and actors are extroverts, no? Not necessarily. You'd be surprised to know most actors are also introverts. So taking an acting class as a writer, I mean, it can be so incredibly beneficial. So maybe you're not in school, or maybe you don't really have any place around you where you can take an acting class. I got you covered, boo. These are some of the books that I used during my time at film school. They were actually required readings, but they were really helpful, to be perfectly honest with you. The first one is Freeing the Natural Voice by Kristen Linklater, and it focuses on the art of developing the voice through imagery and imagination. So this is one that I absolutely recommend. The second book that I had to read was actually for my Meisner class. So it's a big one. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's Elia Kazan's A Life, and it's basically his personal experience as an actor using the Meisner technique and how he was able to implement it in his characters. He was also a director and a producer, so he kind of talks about that a lot, and this is a really great read. Again, it's very long, but it's a really great read. Another book that I recently found, I have not read it, but I do plan on purchasing it, I'll put it right here, is The Sanford Meisner Approach, and it's part of a series of workbooks. This one is called Playing the Part. So it's a workbook. It focuses a lot on implementing the Meisner technique and different exercises that, an actor can use to practice using the Meisner technique so that when they go and film their projects or do their stage plays, they can, easily implement the technique. Again, you would be looking at this through a writer's perspective, but writing is really no different from acting. You're creating these characters in your mind. That's what you do as an actor. When you get a role, you come up with a backstory. If it's not already laid out in the screenplay, you have to figure out a reason for every single line and every single action that this character does. So you come up with a backstory. You give them, different relationships. You give them different experiences in your mind. So that's really not that different from a writer. The only difference is that a writer writes all of this down and does it through the perspective of multiple characters. An actor only focuses on one character, and they physically make it come alive with their body and their voice and their expression, etc., etc. If you hear my son in the background, I apologize. Okay, so let's say you don't have the resources to be able to go and take a class, or there aren't any places that offer an acting class anywhere close by. My hair's all weird. And you don't really have the time to read any of the books that I mentioned. Something that you could do as an exercise is to write some journal entry. Exactly the way that you would write in your own journal. Write a journal entry from every one of your characters. Write several journal entries. And that'll help you get into the mind space of the character so that you can actually feel yourself as that character when you're writing through their point of view in your novel. Something else that I want to mention that directly ties into exactly what I'm trying to say in this video. So my new critique partner, Nat Lopez, if you haven't seen his channel, he is amazing. Go check him out. But he recently did a video kind of just talking about his experience with Nano. He just finished his novel. So proud of him. But he just finished his novel, so he was just kind of talking about, his experience with Nano and some of the things that he loves about it, some of the things he doesn't like about it. Here's the thing. He mentioned something that just really kind of struck a chord in me. He talked about something that literally directly ties into exactly what I'm trying to tell you. So what he said was that every one of his characters is an extension of himself. Essentially, he was saying that all of his characters are self-insert. And I know he mentioned this too in his video, that a lot of writers say, you should never do that. Your character should never be self-insert because you're trying to tell a story, you're not trying to tell an autobiography. And they would be right, except, let's think about this analytically. Every writer wants to make their characters relatable, make them as real as possible, and make them jump from the page, make them three-dimensional. And the way to do that is to, as the writer, somehow connect to those characters. So by putting a little bit of yourself, I'm the same way. There's a little bit of me in every character that I write. It's not all me, but there's a little bit of me in every character. So by doing that, you're making that connection between you and the character. And therefore, when you write for them, it's going to come from a very real place because it's coming from you. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for his video. You guys should definitely check it out because he makes some really great points. I mean, that just makes a whole lot of sense to me because especially the really great novels that we talk about on BookTube that you hear everybody talking about when you're out and about, or if you're at a party and people are talking about books, they're talking about this book. More often than not, it's because those characters really felt real. And the reason that they felt real is because the writer, when they were writing them, made a connection to them. And that connection is real. Even though they're fictional people, the connection is real. So that's the point that I'm trying to get across. That if you really want to make your audience feel something, your readers feel something, then you have to connect in a real way to your story and to your characters. Let's not forget too that when you're connected to your characters, you are emotionally invested in them. That's why I see a lot of writers talking about like character deaths, when you're going to kill off a character, to plan it ahead of time, and that way you don't get too emotionally attached to that character. I've tried to plan out character deaths ahead of time, kind of taking their advice just to see if it worked for me. But here's the thing. When I did that and I wrote the death scene, I didn't feel anything. When I read it back, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel sorry. I didn't feel sad. When I kill off a character, you better believe that Amanda, I deeply, deeply have grown attached to this character. I feel an emotional connection to this character because I know that if I feel it, writing it, that my readers are going to feel it reading it. So that's all I got for you today, kids. How to make your readers feel something. Video 3 in the How to Write Like an Actor series. Let me know in the comments if this helped you or if it made sense. Make sure to stay tuned for video 4 in the How to Write Like an Actor series. I'm going to be talking about dialogue, more specifically how to utilize internal dialogue. As always, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. If you enjoyed the content today, please hit the like button and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and ding that bell because then that way you get notifications every time I post a new video. I post every Wednesday and Friday. Be sure to follow me on social media. I am on Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me on Goodreads. All that info is listed down below. Thank you guys again for watching and I will see you next time.